Hopefully, we can get some time to get people into the room. Obviously, I'm going to have to do set times for the lives that I do. And I think we're probably going to go Monday through Wednesday at 9 p.m. And the way that I generally run the channel is we record academic discussions and we just post them on, and I don't do a lot of live because pretty much what I'm talking about is history that is immovable. But now there is something that is a matter of urgency, and I'm seeing people miss what's going on politically right now. And I did the first live yesterday concerning this, but for everybody's information, Donald Trump has just proposed to begin removing American citizens that are in prison out of the country to El Salvador in particular, and paying El Salvador to take these prisoners. Now, in and of itself, that sounds like outsourcing. And had we not had this happen in the United States before, again, taking prisoners and shipping them out of the country, Abraham Lincoln did that. He did that to a Haitian island called Ile de Vache, and it was a total failure. The American Colonization Society that was established in 1816 had begun a all-white organization that they called colonization, but it wasn't colonization, but their goal and objective was to ship all of the black people out of the country, free black people and enslaved people, because they wanted a country, as articulated by John Wilkes Booth, a country for white people, not black people. So when you get people who assume the authority of removal and relocation of other people beyond their will, that is dangerous. And when we begin dealing with the imprisoned population, we have to even be more careful, because imprisoned people are no longer citizens. And as much as we talk about how people shouldn't discriminate and how racism is bad and misogyny is bad, that anybody ever notice that the only people that we are free to discriminate against are people who are incarcerated? People who are incarcerated cannot vote. Now, what does my crime have to do with me voting? So because I did a crime, it could have been one crime, it could have been a million, I can't vote. Because I did a crime, I can't get tuition to go to school. Because I did a crime, I can't get housing. I can't get public housing because I did a crime. I can't get a job because I did a crime. That is flat out discrimination. And I have to write down that I was convicted of a felony or whatever. So let's get it clear and established that criminality is considered something that is okay for Americans to discriminate against. So right now, Donald Trump has proposed, and again, for those of you who don't follow my channel or have not been to any of my lectures at my university, I don't vote. I don't vote for anybody. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I only keep up with politics specifically for the political value. And what I'm saying with Donald Trump just saying now that he is considering taking prisoners and shipping them to El Salvador and paying El Salvador to take them. Abraham Lincoln did that in 1862. Now, what we have to ask ourselves is, who are they going to send? Because one thing we can almost guarantee, it's going to be poor people. So I don't care if you're black, white, female, whatever, Latino, Native American. If you're poor, you have a greater likely chance of being arrested in this country. So who they choose to send out of this country could be your group. It doesn't matter if you're white. There are more white people, poor white people in this country than it is anybody else. So this is not just a black issue. Now, in this country, disproportionately, the incarcerated are black people. Historically, when Americans were removed from this country, it dealt with black people. When the country did an economic movement around prisons, it disproportionately affected black people. But this can affect anybody. Now, here's the biggest problem. We have a constitution. Can the American president enter in this contract? Now, we have to understand, the White House is some of the highly trained and educated people in the country, the White House staff. So for them to speak this out on international television, they've already thought about this and they're checking the reaction, they're checking the temperature. And I had somebody not text me, but they answered on one of the videos and said, Trump didn't say that. And I sent it. So you must have got that from MSNBC or CNN. I sent it to him from 5 major sources, one of them being Fox, of him actually saying this. But here's a bigger problem. We have a United States Constitution. And the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution says this exactly: all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, property without the due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protections of the law. At no point anywhere in our Constitution do they say that incarceration no longer makes you a citizen. The fact that we know that it does not make you a non-citizen is you are incarcerated in the country. You're incarcerated by way of the country's law. You're incarcerated by way of the country's agents. So you are a United States citizen. So let's go back to the Fourth Amendment. The right of the people to be secure in their houses, persons, papers, and effects against searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath, affirmation, and particularly describing the place in the search and the person and things to be seized. They're seizing people. You're seizing their person and shipping them out of the country. That's what Donald Trump is saying he wants to do. Again, I actually think Donald Trump is good for history. I don't necessarily know if any politician is good for, just with our history, I don't know if any politician is good for the country or good for humanity. But I do think Donald Trump is good for history, because Donald Trump is showing what America has always been. I would rather deal with somebody who is a bad person, but they are clearly upfront with who they are. And I'm not saying he's a bad person, but I would rather deal with an honest bad person than a person that may be good, but I have no idea where they're coming from. I want to know what I'm working with. I can work with what I know. I do not like duplicitous people. And that's what our country has been. The hypocrisy of democracy, so to speak. But we're talking about searches and seizures in equal protection under the law. We got the 14th Amendment and we have the 4th Amendment. But guess what? The 5th Amendment, it says no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in the case arising in the land of naval forces or the militia, where in virtual service in time of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put on jeopardy of life or limb. That's double jeopardy. If Trump or the Trump administration or the leadership behind it is going to, all right, I've done something wrong. I've been adjudicated. I'm in prison. I'm getting a second punishment of being sent to a country that I don't know anybody, that I'm not from. I might not speak the language. Who knows what the laws of protection are? I've now lost my citizenship after I've been adjudicated. That's double jeopardy. That's in the United States Constitution. And then, so now we have an infringement of the 14th, the 4th, and the 5th Amendment. But then we have the 8th Amendment. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, no cruel or unusual punishment inflicted. I would say let's say I'm being imprisoned. No, I'm not reading the Bible. I'm reading the United States Constitution. Someone says there shouldn't be any criminals. Well, criminal is a perspective many times. Criminal is really depending on what the law is. Harriet Tubman was considered a criminal because she escaped slavery and slavery was legal. Women who fought in suffrage to attain the right to vote were considered criminal because they were going against the law of coverture. They were going against the policies that directed women to be second-class citizens. So just because something is legal doesn't make it right. Slavery was legal. Native American genocide was legal. Second-class citizenship of women was legal. Segregation was legal under Plessy versus Ferguson. So criminality is a fluid term. You got to kind of be careful with that. Plus, what is being proposed here with shipping these people out of the country, this is not consistent. This is criminal. That is against 5 articles of the United States Constitution. And what a lot of young people don't know, or people who don't pay attention, is things like this happened before. This is how the war on drugs started. It started off with a relatively mundane promotion. This is commercial. This is drugs. Crack an egg, put it in the skillet. This is your brain on drugs. And then Nancy Reagan getting on TV. Just say no. When somebody offers you drugs, just say no. And okay, that's pretty mundane. And then you begin to see militarizing of the police, automatic weapons, tanks, riot gear, and these military equipment being used on inner city people. They weren't being done in poor white neighborhoods. They weren't being done on college campuses. They weren't being done because there's drugs all over the place. And how is it the poorest people are considered the ones that are running the drugs? If wealth is built through drugs, why are the poorest people the ones that are always getting arrested? Poor people don't have jobs in customs to get things from outside the country into the country. They don't have planes, they don't have trucks to get it from customs on borders into inner cities on the innermost parts of the country. So how is it all of these poor people are being arrested for drugs? Well, then not only are these people being arrested for drugs, they start filling these prisons and building more prisons. And then you start seeing that they built so many prisons, they needed to make more arrests. So then financial incentives start going to police departments around the country to arrest more people. Why do we think that this would not happen as we are sending these people out of the country against the Constitution? That means, what kind of country needs prisoners? A country whose economy is built on their prison system, which is what the United States did in the 80s and 90s. So El Salvador is doing that. Why would you need prisons? Why would you need prisoners? Because you can make them work for almost nothing. That's what the United States did. Look up ALEC, the American Legislative Executive Committee. That's the group that funded the war on drugs. And these were corporations like Boeing, Idaho Potatoes, Victoria's Secret, Walmart. All these different countries were putting this legislation to get people arrested. And when these people got arrested, they were leased out, convict leasing. Look that up. Just go into the phone, put in convict leasing, 1865. 1865. It's over 100 years ago. In fact, it was 160 years ago. All of this has happened before. This is how people have made money off of cheap labor. So just think to yourself, why would El Salvador need Americans prisoners? Why is El Salvador asking America for their prisoners? Because America's got the most of them. Why does America have the most prisons? Because America has always functioned under the business model of low labor cost, high profits. When Lincoln transferred slavery, he did not change it. He did not abolish it. He transferred slavery from chattel slavery to penal slavery. The 13th Amendment, still the same. They haven't changed it. It's right here. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for a crime, whereof the party shall be duly convicted. So except means, in this case, you can have slavery. Except as a punishment of a crime shall exist in the United States or any places subject to its jurisdiction. So so they changed slavery to a penal form, to a criminalized form. And if slavery is a criminalized form, that is what we have been using as cheap labor to keep our business model working. This is what they're talking about now. If you're a criminal, we can take your rights to the point, even though the 14th Amendment says nothing can take your rights, especially if you're born here. And if I'm not a citizen here, why am I being kept under your guard? So let's just get it clear. Prisoners are citizens. And if they're not citizens, send them back where they're going to, because we shouldn't be sending people, picking who we're going to remove from the United States arbitrarily. Because when it's attached to money, people will begin to do things more for the money as opposed for the cause. What benefit is it to the American people for Donald Trump to take criminals and send them somewhere? What benefit? Especially if we're the country that he just said we've given over $300 million to one country over a war. That's not being the Ukraine. We gave Ukraine over 300 million. We've given 300 billion. And we have given over, we've given hundreds of billions to Israel also. What financial need do we have to be sending people who have been arrested? What is it a benefit to us to send these people out? Let me see what this says. Something about to keep their 13th Amendment relevant. If you are an American citizen, the entire Constitution is relevant. I don't know kind of where you're going. Yes, that would include indentured servitude. But this is the Constitution. If you're an American citizen, these are the rules. Now, if you're trying to play the game, you're trying to play the game. But we can't pick and choose what the rules are. The rules are the rules, and the rules of the United States Constitution. And the contract of the Constitution is what allows us to function, because you can't do whatever you want to do. And I know what the rules are. I can't do whatever I want to do. That's the agreement. So I don't know about, keeping the 13th Amendment relevant. All of the amendments are relevant, as is the body of the Constitution. But again, I'm going to widen this down because we got to do this a little bit every day. I wanted to bring the Constitution into this argument. This is not politics. This is protection. Anytime they're beginning to, this country has been made on the commodification of people. Read Saltwater Slavery by Stephanie Smallwood. When people become a numeric value, when humanity has been removed from people, that is what the United States has built itself on. That's poor white people. Look up Bacon's Rebellion, 1676. Look up the anti-miscegenation laws in 1681. When you have people moved and traded as commodities, that is dangerous. And generally is dangerous to poor people. So pay attention to this. I don't care what else they're talking about right now. They're talking about a whole bunch of stuff until they started talking about moving people from one country to another. That has happened in history several times. That's how the Atlantic slave trade started. The African countries were at war. They would take the prisoners of war from their people that they were fighting against. The Europeans said, I'll give you money for those people so you don't have to take care of them. That's how the Atlantic slave trade started. That's just facts. That's just facts. What I'm going to do, 9 o'clock tomorrow, I'm going to look more into this. If there's anybody who questions if Donald Trump actually proposed this, just Google Donald Trump, El Salvador, and prisoners. It comes right up. And it's on Fox, it's on CNN, it's on MSNBC, it's on every channel. But no one is talking about it. Nobody caught it, because if you're not a historian, it's not, especially if you're not an American historian, a historian of American history, it doesn't hit your ear the same way. So again, please subscribe to the channel. We need to build a family around this. Said the rules deny us our humanity. No, it doesn't. I would challenge you to point out where the Constitution denies humanity. The problem with the Constitution is not that it denies humanity. It's the fact that nobody follows it. It's a really beautifully written document, actually. In fact, it's one of my favorite things to read. It angers me because of the history Black people have with the country, but it's probably one of the most well written documents that you'll ever find, being the United States Constitution. So please subscribe to the channel, Dr. Darnell Bolton, PhD. I will get more and more information on this particular topic as I can. We generally have a show called Class in Session, but this may be History and Politics. So I'll begin to put that under these titles. I'll have my producers kind of dress it up. Sorry for the lighting, but I wanted to get this in today because this was important. Any questions you have, please leave comments, like, subscribe, share. I will see you guys soon.